They said love was pure, but only if it followed the rules, only if it bowed to tradition, only if it never crossed the sacred lines of faith. I thought our hearts could beat louder than the voices that warned us. I thought holding his hand would be enough to silence the world. But love, true love, is never easy when religion stands in the way. This is not just a story. It is a confession of a love that dared to exist. They say love knows no boundaries, but I never believed it until I lived it myself. My name is Aaliyah, and this is the story of how I fell in love with someone who the world told me I should never even speak to. I grew up in a very traditional household, a place where family dinners meant long prayers before meals, where festivals were celebrated with strict rituals, and where even the smallest step outside of tradition was noticed by everyone. My parents loved me deeply, but their love came with expectations. They wanted me to follow the path they had chosen, study hard, become respectable, marry someone from the same community, and raise children who would live the same life we had always known. For a long time, I believed I would do exactly that. I was the kind of daughter who never argued, never spoke too loudly, never questioned the rules. Until I met him. His name was Daniel. I still remember the first time I saw him. It was at the library near my university. I was searching for a book on literature, and he was standing by the same shelf. His hand reached out at the exact same moment mine did, our fingers brushing lightly. I pulled back quickly, embarrassed, my cheeks turning red. He smiled softly and said, "Looks like we're both looking for the same thing." His voice was calm, steady, kind. I didn't know then that voice would become the sound I would crave more than anything else. We talked for just a few minutes that day, about the book, about classes, about the weather. Nothing extraordinary, but something about the way he looked at me made me feel seen in a way I never had before. Daniel was different. He wasn't from my community. He wasn't from my faith. He carried himself with a freedom, a gentleness that felt almost dangerous to me, but also safe at the same time. We started seeing each other more often, first by accident, then on purpose. He would sit near me in the library, walk with me toward the bus stop, sometimes buy me coffee when he noticed I looked tired. At first, I told myself it was innocent, just friendship, just harmless conversation. But deep down, my heart already knew it was something else. One evening, as we walked together under the golden sunset, he turned to me and asked, "Do you believe in fate?" I laughed nervously. "I don't know, maybe." And he said, "Because I feel like meeting you was written somewhere long before today." Those words stayed with me, echoing in my chest. Over time, our bond grew stronger, but so did the tension inside me. Every smile, every laugh we shared felt like a secret crime. I knew what my family would say, what my community would whisper. And yet, I couldn't let go. Daniel never pushed me, never rushed me. He respected the lines I drew. But I could see it in his eyes, the way he wanted to hold my hand, the way he wanted to tell the world about us, and the way it hurt him to keep it hidden. I remember one particular moment so clearly. We were sitting by the riverbank after class, watching the water ripple in the evening light. Daniel looked at me quietly for a long time, then finally said, "Aaliyah, do you ever wonder if love is bigger than everything else?" I froze, my heart pounding because I knew what he meant. I whispered, "Yes, but I'm afraid to find out." That was the truth. I was terrified. Terrified of disappointing my parents, of losing my community, of being judged by everyone I had ever known. But at the same time, I was terrified of losing him. The more time we spent together, the harder it became to hide. I started lying to my family about where I was going, who I was with, small lies at first, then bigger ones. Guilt clawed at me every night. But then I'd remember the warmth of his smile, the way he listened when I spoke, the way he made me feel alive. And I'd tell myself, just one more day, just one more chance to see him. Slowly, I noticed cracks forming in the world I had always trusted. My best friend, Noor, asked me one day why I seemed distracted. My mother noticed I was late coming home more often, and my father, though he said nothing, would watch me with a quiet suspicion I couldn't ignore. The weight of the secret grew heavier, and still, my heart kept pulling me toward him. I tried to convince myself it was temporary, that it would fade, but it didn't. If anything, it only grew stronger. A love that shouldn't exist, but did. A love that both thrilled me and scared me. And then something happened that changed everything. It was the night of a family gathering. Relatives filled our home with laughter and conversation. I was dressed in traditional clothes, smiling, pretending everything was perfect. But my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a message from Daniel. Just 3 words. "I need you." I excused myself, stepped into the quiet of the hallway, and read his next message. Something happened. Please come. My heart raced. Fear and love crashing together. I knew that if I left, someone would notice. Questions would be asked, suspicions would grow stronger. But in that moment, nothing mattered more than him. I slipped out quietly, praying no one would see, unaware that my choice that night would be the first crack that would shatter everything. That night, I ran through the streets with my heart pounding, the sounds of the family gathering fading behind me as I clutched my phone in my hand. Daniel had never messaged me like that before. His words carried fear, desperation, something urgent that made me forget everything else. When I reached the park where he told me to meet, I found him sitting on a bench, his face pale, his eyes clouded with worry. I sat beside him quickly, whispering, "Daniel, what happened?" He looked at me, his voice breaking as he said, "My father found out about us." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. It felt as if the ground beneath me had shifted. Daniel continued, "I didn't tell him everything, but he saw your name on my phone and he asked questions I couldn't avoid. He doesn't understand. Aaliyah, he said I was making a mistake." Tears burned at the back of my eyes. I whispered, "And what did you say?" He looked at me with that same steady calm, even in his pain, and answered, "I told him I love you." My breath caught. My heart raced, because no one had ever said those words to me before. Not like this, not with such certainty. But along with the warmth came the cold sting of fear. Love. Yes, but love forbidden by everything I had been taught. I lowered my gaze, whispering, "Daniel, if my family ever finds out." He reached for my hand gently. "We'll find a way. Love is worth it. You're worth it." His words comforted me, but they also scared me, because deep down, I knew the walls of tradition around us were high, and breaking them could come at a price we weren't ready to pay. That night, I returned home quietly, hoping no one had noticed my absence. But the moment I stepped inside, I felt the sharp eyes of my father on me. He didn't say a word, but I could see the question in his gaze. Where had I gone? Why did I look so unsettled? I lied. I said I wasn't feeling well and needed fresh air. He didn't argue, but I knew. He knew. The following weeks were filled with tension. My family seemed to grow more suspicious. My father's silences became heavier. My mother's gentle questions sharper. Noor, my best friend, grew distant, as if she could sense a secret I wasn't sharing. And yet, in the middle of that storm, Daniel remained my safe place. Every stolen moment with him felt like oxygen, like I was finally alive. We'd meet in quiet cafes, or sit in his car parked far from the eyes of people who might know me. We talked for hours about dreams, about fears, about the life we wished we could have without the weight of expectations crushing us. Sometimes, he'd make me laugh so hard that I forgot the danger. Other times, we sat in silence, holding hands, just grateful for each other's presence. But no matter how beautiful those moments were, a shadow always lingered, the shadow of religion, of family, of community. Daniel once told me, "It feels like the world doesn't want us to be together, but I can't let go. I won't let go." And I believed him, even though a small part of me trembled at what was coming. One afternoon, Noor confronted me. She cornered me outside class, her eyes sharp with hurt. "Aaliyah, where have you been disappearing to? Don't tell me it's just studying. I'm not blind." I panicked. I tried to deflect, but she grabbed my hand and whispered angrily, "It's him, isn't it? Daniel." My heart stopped. "Noor, please," I whispered. Her eyes filled with shock and betrayal. "Do you have any idea what will happen if people find out? Your family will never forgive you. And mine." She shook her head. "You're risking everything." I begged her not to tell anyone, my voice breaking, my hands trembling. She promised she wouldn't, but the look in her eyes told me something else. She didn't understand. She couldn't. That night, I cried myself to sleep, torn between loyalty to my family and the love that had become the center of my world. And then something happened that made the cracks even deeper. It was during a festival at my home. Our house was filled with relatives, neighbors, children running around, music playing, rituals being performed with solemn devotion. I was supposed to be part of it, to smile, to serve sweets, to play the role of the perfect daughter. But Daniel, he sent me a message again, this time not of fear, but of longing. "Meet me after, please. I just want to see you, for a few minutes." I hesitated, but my heart betrayed me. I slipped out once more, telling myself it was just for a little while, just to see his smile, just to hear his voice. But when I returned home, Noor was waiting, standing in the hallway, her expression unreadable. She whispered sharply, "You can't keep doing this. Someone will notice. Someone already suspects." I froze, dread filling me. "Who?" And she whispered the name I feared most, "Your father." At that moment, I realized the walls were closing in faster than I had imagined. The lies were piling higher, and the truth was pressing hard against them, waiting to break free. And deep in my chest, a voice whispered, "Something is about to shatter." After Noor's warning, I could no longer pretend everything was fine. The comfort of our secret love began to feel like a rope tightening around my neck. Each stolen glance, each hidden meeting came with the risk of discovery, and discovery meant destruction. But how could I let go? Daniel had become more than just a boy I loved. He was my anchor, the reason I smiled, the reason I believed life could be more than tradition and rules. Yet the fear of my father's suspicion grew heavier with every passing day. His silence spoke louder than words. His eyes seemed to follow me, measuring my every step. One evening, I overheard my parents whispering in the living room, their voices low but tense. My mother asked softly, "Do you think she's hiding something?" My father's reply was sharp, "I know she is, but I'll find out what." My heart stopped at the doorway. I backed away before they saw me, tears burning my eyes. The next day, I told Daniel about it, my voice trembling. He knows, maybe not everything, but he knows something is wrong. Daniel took my hand gently. "Then we have to be careful. But Aaliyah, I won't let him, or anyone, take you away from me." His determination made my chest ache. But deep down, I wondered, could love really stand against the weight of faith, family, and an entire community? Days turned into weeks, and the tension only grew. Nor stopped talking to me as much. Her silence felt like punishment and betrayal all at once. I missed her, but I also knew she could never accept what I was doing. One afternoon, as I sat at my desk trying to study, I received a message from Daniel. "Meet me tomorrow, same place. I have something important to tell you." Important. Those words haunted me all night. Was he breaking things off? Was he going to ask me to run away with him? When I finally met him the next day, he looked nervous. His fingers fidgeted, his eyes searched mine as if afraid of my reaction. He finally spoke. "Aaliyah, I've been accepted into a university abroad. I'll be leaving in a few months." The words hit me like a storm. My chest tightened, my throat closed. The thought of losing him felt unbearable. I whispered, "You're leaving me?" He shook his head quickly. "No, I want you with me. I don't care how, but I can't imagine going without you." Tears spilled down my face. "Daniel, you don't understand. My family, they would never let me." He leaned closer, his voice breaking. "Then choose me. Please. For once in your life, choose what your heart wants, not what they tell you to want." His words dug into me like a blade. Because I wanted that. I wanted him. I wanted to be brave enough to say yes. But courage isn't easy when the chains of tradition are heavy. I left that day torn in two, my heart screaming yes, my mind whispering no. At home, my father called me into the living room, his face stern, his tone cold. "Aaliyah, there's talk about you. People are asking questions. They've seen you with him." My blood ran cold. My knees trembled. He knew, not fully perhaps, but enough. I tried to deny it, but my father's voice rose like thunder. "Do not lie to me." I broke down, tears falling as I whispered, "I love him." The silence that followed was suffocating. My father's face hardened. My mother gasped, covering her mouth with her hand. Finally, my father spoke, his voice low but sharp. "This shame, this betrayal, will not be forgiven." He left the room without another word. My mother stared at me with tearful eyes, whispering, "Aaliyah, what have you done?" That night, I felt the walls of my world closing in. The love that once made me feel free now threatened to destroy everything I knew. Daniel called me again, his voice urgent. "We don't have much time. If your father already knows, things will get worse. Please come with me." I hesitated. Fear wrapped itself around me like chains. But at the same time, a fire burned inside. The fire of love, of rebellion, of wanting to live for myself. As I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, I realized something. No matter how much I tried to hold on to both worlds, sooner or later, I would have to choose. And when the moment came, that choice would break something forever. The morning after my father's outburst, the house felt colder than ever. No words were exchanged at breakfast, only the clinking of spoons against plates and the heavy silence pressing down on my chest. My father's gaze never lifted. My mother's hands shook as she poured tea, nor avoided my eyes altogether, as if my sin was contagious. I felt like a stranger in my own home. At school, the whispers had already begun. I could feel eyes on me in the hallways, classmates nudging each other, their voices sharp in hushed tones. "That's her. She's the one who's seeing him." Shame burned through me, but beneath it, anger grew too. Why was love something to be whispered about, as if it were a crime? That evening, I met Daniel again. My hands trembled as I reached for him, but when his arms wrapped around me, I felt safe, even if only for a fleeting moment. "I can't stay here much longer," he said softly. It's not safe for you, and it's not safe for me either. I bit my lip hard. My father. He looked at me like I wasn't his daughter anymore. Daniel's jaw clenched, his eyes filled with fire. Then come with me, Aaliyah. We can build a life away from all of this, away from their rules, their judgment. The temptation was overwhelming. My heart screamed to say yes, but fear wrapped its hands around my throat. I whispered, if I leave, I lose my family forever. He pulled back slightly, searching my face. And if you stay, you lose yourself forever. Those words struck deep because a part of me already felt lost, torn between duty and desire, between being a daughter and being a lover. That night, Noor slipped into my room quietly. She sat at the edge of my bed, her eyes wet with tears. Aaliyah, why are you doing this? She whispered. You know how dangerous it is. You know what people will say, what they'll do. I reached for her hand, but she pulled it away. Her disappointment cut sharper than my father's anger. Noor, I love him. I whispered desperately. Is that really so wrong? Her silence was louder than any answer. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked. It's not about love, Aaliyah. It's about survival, and you're playing with fire. She left me in tears, the distance between us growing into a chasm I feared would never be bridged. Days passed. My father's anger turned into something colder, a silence that felt heavier than shouting. He no longer asked me where I was going because he already knew he couldn't control me anymore. But control wasn't his only weapon. Reputation was. And I could feel it crumbling around us like fragile glass. One evening, as Daniel and I sat by the lake, watching the sun dip below the horizon, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. My breath caught. My heart raced. He opened it slowly, revealing a simple silver ring. Aaliyah, he whispered, his voice trembling. I know this isn't the perfect time, or the perfect place, but my love for you is real, and I want you to be mine, not in secret, not in shame, but in truth. Tears blurred my vision. My chest ached with the weight of the moment. Yes, I whispered, my voice breaking. Yes, Daniel. He slipped the ring onto my finger, and for the first time, hope felt stronger than fear. But hope is fragile, and reality waits like a shadow. That night, when I returned home, Noor was standing in my room, her face pale, her eyes fixed on the ring glittering on my hand. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it felt like thunder. What have you done? I froze, my mouth dry, my heart pounding like a drum inside my chest. Noor's hands trembled, her eyes filling with tears. Do you have any idea what this means? If Father finds out, if the community sees, it won't just be you who pays the price, it will be all of us. Guilt tore through me, but so did defiance. I clenched my fists. I can't let fear decide my life anymore. I love him, Noor. I love him. She shook her head, stepping back slowly, as if she no longer recognized me. That was the moment I knew something was about to break. Not just between me and my family, but within the fragile walls of the life I had always known. It happened on a Friday evening. The call to prayer echoed through the neighborhood, and the streets were filled with families hurrying home. I walked inside quietly, praying my father wouldn't notice the ring still hidden in my pocket. But Noor noticed first. She was standing by the window, her face pale, her eyes swollen from crying. She turned to me, and her voice shook. I told Father. The words hit me like a slap. My chest tightened. I stumbled back against the doorframe. You what? I whispered, my throat dry. Her lips trembled. I couldn't keep your secret anymore. It's too dangerous, Aaliyah. I love you, but this will destroy us. Before I could reply, my father entered, his eyes burning with rage. His voice thundered. You think you can dishonor this family and walk away? My legs felt weak. I wanted to disappear, but his words trapped me like chains. You think your love is stronger than our faith? My mother stood in the corner, silent tears running down her cheeks, unable to defend me, unable to stop him. He stepped closer, his finger pointed like a blade. You will end this tonight, or you will not be my daughter anymore. The room spun. My chest ached. My vision blurred with tears. No, I whispered, shaking my head. I can't. I won't leave him. Silence fell heavy. Then his hand slammed against the table. The sound echoed like thunder. You choose him, he growled. Then you choose death to this family. Noor cried out, begging him to stop, but his decision was final. I saw it in his eyes. A wall had risen between us, higher than faith, stronger than blood. That night, I ran to Daniel, my heart racing, my lungs burning as if the air itself rejected me. He held me as I sobbed into his chest, his hands trembling as he whispered, We have to go. Aaliyah, they'll never forgive us. But I shook my head, my voice cracking. I can't leave yet. I can't let him win by making me disappear. I need to fight back. I need them to see, to feel, what this hatred costs. Daniel frowned, his thumb brushing my cheek. Fight back? How? And that was when the seed was planted. A dark whisper in my heart. Revenge. I wanted my father to feel what I felt, to lose something precious, to realize the weight of his cruelty. But revenge is dangerous, it grows like fire, and once lit, it's hard to control. I began to plan in secret, my mind racing with possibilities, lies I could tell, truths I could expose. Every night, I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, whispering to myself, what if someone finds out it was me? But even the fear couldn't stop me, because anger burned stronger than fear. And so, one quiet evening, I made my first move. My first step was small, almost harmless, but in my heart it felt like rebellion. I told my aunt, a woman who loved gossip more than peace, that my father was planning to marry Noor secretly, to a man twice her age. I watched her eyes widen, her lips curl with shock, then excitement. By the next morning, the story had spread across the family like wildfire. When my father stormed into the living room, his face red with fury, I knew it had worked. Who told them? He roared, slamming the door behind him. Noor's face turned pale. She looked at me for only a second, suspicion flickering in her eyes, but she said nothing. My father paced like a lion trapped and wounded. His reputation mattered more than his children's happiness, and now it was in danger. I should have felt guilty, but instead, I felt a sharp, secret satisfaction. For once, he was the one suffering, not me. Daniel noticed the change in me too, his soft voice filled with worry as he asked, Aliyah, are you sure this is the path you want? This revenge, it's not you. I turned away from him, tears burning in my eyes. It has to be me. They need to feel it the way I feel it. But still, fear lingered in the shadows of my mind. What if someone discovered the truth? What if Noor guessed? What if my father found proof? Each night, the questions haunted me, yet my anger drowned out my doubts. And so, I planned my second move. This time it was riskier. My father had always prided himself on being respected in the mosque, the man others sought for advice. So I whispered to a family friend that perhaps my father was not as holy as he pretended to be, that he had secrets, hidden meetings, and that maybe money was missing from the family's business. The lie was dangerous, one that could tear everything apart. But I planted it carefully, like poison, slow and silent. Within days, whispers began to circle. People looked at my father differently, not with respect, but suspicion. He came home furious, slamming his fists on the table, demanding answers. And once again, Noor's eyes drifted to me. She didn't say the words, but I could feel them, burning in the silence. It was you, wasn't it? But she stayed quiet, protecting me, even as my father's fury grew. And still, part of me hated her for it. Hated that she was the loyal daughter, while I was the shadow creeping through lies. The chaos in the house grew heavier each day. Voices raised, doors slammed, prayers whispered with trembling lips. And through it all, Daniel tried to hold me steady. He begged me to let go, to run away with him, to build a new life. But I couldn't. Not yet. Because revenge, once planted, grows roots too deep to pull out. So I whispered to myself in the dark, just one more step, just one more move, then I'll stop. But deep down, I knew the truth. There was no stopping now. The first stone had been thrown, and the ripples were spreading fast. And my father, the man who thought he controlled everything, was finally beginning to crumble. Noor avoided me now, her silence heavier than any words she could have spoken. She no longer lingered in my room at night, no more whispered secrets under the blanket, no soft laughter that once felt like music. Instead, she sat alone, staring out the window, her fingers trembling as though she carried a burden too heavy to share. And I watched her with a strange mix of guilt and anger. I had wanted to hurt my father, but in the process, I had wounded her too. Sometimes, I almost broke. Sometimes, I wanted to run into her arms, to confess everything, to say, it was me, Noor. I whispered the lies. I tore down his name. But then, the memory of my father's harsh words, his threats, his coldness, came back to me, and the fire of revenge kept me alive. One evening, while my father was gone, I overheard Noor on the phone. Her voice was quiet, almost broken. I don't know what's happening. Father is being accused of things I can't understand. I feel like someone close to me, someone I trust, is tearing us apart. My heart raced. She didn't know it was me, but she was close, so close. That night, Daniel held my hands tightly. Aliyah, this path will consume you. Revenge doesn't heal, it destroys. And if Noor finds out, you'll lose her forever. His words pierced me, but I pulled away. She already feels far from me. What difference does it make if she knows? The bond is gone, Daniel. It's broken. He shook his head, sadness filling his eyes. No, it's not gone. You're the one cutting the threads. For the first time, I saw disappointment in his gaze, and that hurt almost as much as my father's betrayal. But the anger in me was stronger still, and so I began to plan again. This time, the target was Noor herself. I told myself it wasn't cruel, only fair. After all, I needed her to feel what I felt, the sting of betrayal, the loneliness of being doubted. So I whispered another rumor, that Noor was meeting someone in secret, that she was disobedient, that maybe she was in love with a man outside our faith. The irony twisted inside me, for it was my truth I placed upon her shoulders. But that is the way of revenge. You project your wounds onto others, until no one is left clean. The whispers spread quickly, faster than I expected. My father's fury doubled. His voice thundered through the house, accusing Noor of things she had never done. She cried, begged him to believe her, her voice breaking into pieces I could hardly bear to hear. Yet I stayed silent, hiding behind my own mask of innocence. And when she turned to me, desperate for comfort, I looked away. Because if I looked at her, I might have broken. Days passed, and Noor became a ghost. Her eyes hollow, her laughter gone. I told myself this was justice, that now she knew what it felt like. But at night, when the house grew quiet, I could still hear her muffled sobs through the walls, and they echoed inside me like a curse. Daniel's patience was wearing thin. One night he said sharply, "Aaliyah, stop this before it destroys everything. Stop, or you'll lose not only your family but yourself." I wanted to scream at him, to tell him he didn't understand, but deep down, I knew he did. Still, I was trapped in a storm I had created. If I stopped now, the lies would be exposed. My father would know, Noor would hate me. I couldn't stop, not anymore. And so, I whispered to myself, once more, just one last move, one final step, and it will all end. But even as I said the words, I knew it was never going to end. Because revenge is a fire that feeds itself until there is nothing left to burn. The storm broke on a Sunday evening. My father called Noor into the living room, his face like stone. He held letters in his hands, letters someone had slipped under his door, anonymous, accusing Noor of shameful things. He didn't know those words were mine. I watched from the corner, my chest heavy. "Noor," his voice thundered, "what have you done? Who is this man they speak of? Who have you been meeting?" Her eyes widened, her lips trembling. "I swear, I haven't done anything. Father, you know me. I wouldn't." "Enough," he roared, slamming the papers onto the table. The sound echoed like a gunshot. I flinched, but I stayed silent, and Noor, she fell to her knees, her tears soaking the carpet. "Please believe me, please." Her sobs cut through me like knives, but my father's face stayed cold. "You've shamed us. You've shamed me." I should have felt triumphant. This was the revenge I had dreamed of, but instead, I felt my chest tighten, as though I couldn't breathe. Daniel grabbed my arm quietly, whispering, "Aaliyah, this has gone too far. Stop this before you can't undo it." I shook my head, my nails digging into my palms. If I stop now, I'll be destroyed. The next days were worse. Noor wasn't allowed to leave the house alone. My father shadowed her, scolded her, cut her words in half. The bond we once had, the love between us, it was dying, and I had killed it with my own hands. Still, I couldn't step back, because I knew if the truth came out, everything would collapse on me instead. So I doubled down. I whispered new lies to distant relatives, carefully, softly. "Noor is hiding something. She's changed, haven't you noticed?" And like wildfire, the rumors spread again. By now, it wasn't just Noor's tears that haunted me. It was her silence. She no longer begged. She no longer defended herself. She simply moved through the house like a shadow, empty, broken, and I hated myself, but still, I couldn't stop. Then the unthinkable happened. One evening, Daniel came to me, his face pale, his voice shaking. "Aaliyah, Noor came to me today. She asked if I knew what was happening. She said she felt like someone close, someone she trusted, was destroying her." My blood froze. "She doesn't know, does she?" I whispered. Daniel looked at me, with eyes full of sorrow. "No, she doesn't know for sure, but she suspects." My stomach twisted. If Noor discovered the truth, not only would I lose her, but Daniel too, for he had begged me again and again to stop, and I hadn't listened. That night, I sat by the window, staring at the moonlight. The revenge that once tasted so sweet, now tasted of ashes, but there was no going back, because the next step, the final move, was already in motion. A whisper I had planted weeks ago had finally reached its destination. A community elder was coming to speak with my father, and when he did, Noor's reputation would be shattered completely. There would be no repairing it. No forgiveness, no way back. As I lay awake that night, Daniel's words echoed in my head. You'll lose not only your family, but yourself. And maybe that was already true. Maybe in my hunger for revenge, I had already lost everything that ever mattered. Still, I couldn't stop the tide now. The wheel was turning, and soon the crash would come. The house was silent that evening. Too silent. My father paced in the living room, his hands clasped behind his back, his jaw clenched tight. Beside him sat the community elder, a man whose word carried weight heavier than steel. And Noor, she sat with her hands folded, her head bowed low, her face pale, as though she already knew the verdict was written before she spoke a word. I stood near the doorway, Daniel beside me, my heart pounding so loud I thought they could all hear it. The elder cleared his throat, his voice deep, unshakable. I've heard troubling things, he said, things no father should ever hear about his daughter. Noor's eyes flickered up, wide, terrified. Please, she whispered. It's not true, none of it. My father slammed his fist against the armrest. Lies, he thundered. You think you can still deny it after all this? Noor's body trembled. Her lips quivered. Father, I swear to you, I've done nothing. I would never. Her words broke into sobs. The elder shook his head slowly. Reputation once shattered cannot be mended. The words cut like a knife. I should have felt satisfaction, the sweet taste of victory. But instead, my throat tightened. Daniel's hand brushed mine, his whisper hot against my ear. Aliyah, if you don't stop this now, it will destroy her and you. I looked at him, my heart torn. But my father's voice cut through the room again. From this day, Noor is no longer trusted in this house. The words fell heavy final like chains clamping shut. Noor gasped. Her body collapsed against the sofa, her sobs shaking her thin frame. Father, please, she whispered. Please don't take my home from me. But his face stayed like stone. No daughter of mine will drag our name through the mud. The elder nodded, rising to his feet. It is the only way to preserve honor. And in that moment, something inside me cracked. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't stand the sight of her breaking. It wasn't supposed to go this far. She wasn't supposed to lose everything. But my silence was a weapon, and it had already cut too deep. Then, Noor's eyes lifted, and for the first time, they landed on me. Her face was streaked with tears, but her gaze sharp, piercing. Aliyah, she whispered. Her voice trembled, but it was filled with something more than pain, suspicion. You know something, don't you? This isn't just rumors. Someone close to me, someone I trusted. My blood froze. Her words were a blade, cutting straight to the truth I had buried. The room went silent, every eye turning toward me. Daniel's grip on my hand tightened. No, he whispered desperately. Don't say anything. But Noor's gaze didn't leave mine. Aliyah, she whispered again, louder now.
Why?
Why are you looking at me like that? I opened my mouth, but no words came, because I knew the moment I spoke, the fragile lie I had built would shatter, and the pieces would cut everyone in this room. Noor's sobs softened, replaced by a trembling anger. You, she whispered, her voice almost inaudible. It was you, wasn't it? The room spun. My father frowned, his eyes narrowing. Aliyah? What is she saying? The walls seemed to close in on me. I could hear my own heartbeat hammering in my ears. Daniel's voice broke through, raw, desperate. Enough. Stop this. Before it kills all of you. But it was too late. The truth was bleeding out, word by word, tear by tear. And once it escaped, there would be no turning back. Noor's voice trembled, but her words struck like thunder. It was you, she cried, her fingers shaking as she pointed at me. Aliyah, you spread this poison, you wanted to ruin me. The room erupted in shock. My father's face hardened, his chest heaving as he looked between us. Is this true? He demanded, his voice sharp like a blade. I froze, my lips parted, but the truth tangled in my throat. Daniel pulled me back slightly, whispering frantically, Don't, if you confess now, everything will collapse. But Noor's eyes burned. Say it, she screamed. Look me in the eyes and deny it. Tell me you didn't destroy me. My breath caught, my chest aching, because for the first time, I saw not my sister, not my rival, but a broken woman, stripped of everything. And it was my hands that had torn her apart. Father slammed the table. Aliyah, he roared, answer your sister. Silence wrapped the room like suffocating smoke. Finally, words slipped past my lips, weak, trembling. I never meant for it to go this far. Gasps filled the air. Noor's face collapsed, the rage in her eyes drowning in betrayal. You, she whispered, her voice cracking. You were supposed to be my blood, my shadow, my friend. How could you? Her body shook, her knees buckling as she collapsed to the floor. I reached toward her, tears blurring my vision. Noor, please. I just wanted Don't touch me, she spat, recoiling as though my hand were fire. You wanted to see me burn. Well, are you happy now? Her words stabbed deeper than any knife. Daniel's grip on my arm was the only thing keeping me standing. Father's face turned dark. His voice thundered once again. You brought shame upon your own sister, your own family, for what? Jealousy? Spite? My lips trembled, my voice barely escaping. For love, I whispered. The room went still. The elders had jerked toward me, his eyes wide with disbelief. For love, he repeated slowly. You risked honor, blood, trust for love. Daniel stiffened beside me, his gaze locked to the floor. Nora's head snapped up, her tear-streaked face twisting with fury. Don't tell me, she hissed. Don't you dare tell me this was about Daniel. My heart pounded, but silence was confession, and she knew it. Her scream shattered the air, raw, guttural. You betrayed me for him? Daniel's head shot up, his voice breaking. Nor, it wasn't like that. Don't you dare speak, she cut him off. You knew what you meant to me, and you, both of you. Her voice cracked, her shoulders shaking as rage and grief collided. You deserve each other. You deserve every curse the world will spit at you. My father staggered back, his hand pressed against his forehead. This is beyond forgiveness, he muttered. 2 daughters destroyed. The elder's face was stern cold. This union, this love you speak of, it will never be blessed. He turned to my father, his voice final. You must choose, cast them out or watch your name crumble under their sin. The words pierced the air like thunderclaps. Daniel grabbed my hand tightly. His voice trembled, but his eyes were steady. Then let us go, he said. If this house, if this world cannot hold our love, then we'll walk away from it. Nora's laugh was bitter, broken. Run, she spat. Run into the shadows together, because that's all you'll ever have, shadows. Her words seared into my heart, but even through the pain, I felt Daniel's grip, strong, certain, and I knew the moment had come. The lie was gone, the truth lay bare, and now there was no turning back. The night outside roared with storm, but nothing compared to the storm inside our home. Father's chest rose and fell heavily. His silence was more terrifying than his rage. Nora stood trembling, her eyes swollen with tears, but her voice steady with venom. You think leaving makes you brave, she spat. No, it makes you cowards. You're running because you know you've destroyed everything. Her words sliced through me, but Daniel squeezed my hand tighter. We're not running, Nora, he said firmly. We're choosing peace, choosing each other. Her laugh was bitter, jagged. Peace? With her, she sneered. She stole from me. She betrayed me. She deserves nothing but loneliness. Her eyes cut into me. And you, Daniel, may every kiss you share taste like guilt. May every night remind you of the sister you destroyed. I flinched, my chest tightening. Father finally spoke, his voice like iron. You leave this house tonight. My breath caught. Father, please, I whispered, but his eyes were stone. You've chosen love over blood. Then you are no longer my daughter. The words struck harder than any slap. My knees buckled, tears spilling freely. Daniel caught me, whispering, we'll survive this, we'll make it. But inside, I felt something shatter. Nora's lips curled into a trembling smirk. See, Aliyah, this is your victory. You wanted me broken, and now you are broken too. I shook my head desperately. No, I never wanted this. I just wanted to be seen. Her scream ripped the air. You had everything. Our parents' love, their trust. And still you stole mine. The elder slammed his cane against the floor. Enough, he barked. The house is decided. Love built on betrayal cannot stand. His eyes burned into us. Leave and do not return. The words sealed our fate, like a curse carved into stone. Daniel pulled me to my feet, his arm around me, guiding me toward the door. My father didn't look at me. My mother sobbed quietly in the corner. Nor glared with a fire that would never die. As we reached the door, Nor's voice called out one last time. You think love can save you, but love built on ashes always burns. I froze, her words echoing deep inside me. Daniel tugged gently. Don't listen, he whispered. Come with me. And so, we stepped into the night, the storm swallowing us whole. Lightning tore across the sky, rain lashed against our skin. But even as Daniel pulled me close, even as he promised, we'll build a new life, Aliyah, a life free of them. Inside me, a hollow ache grew, because Nor's curse wasn't just words, it was truth. I had one Daniel, but I had lost everything else. And the price of that love was blood, family, and faith. And in that storm, as the house faded behind us, I realized revenge may taste sweet for a moment, but its aftertaste is bitter enough to last forever. The storm carried us far from the home I once knew, far from the warmth of my mother's smile, far from the familiar sound of Nor's laughter before it turned to venom. Daniel, and I found shelter in a small town miles away, a place where no one knew our names, no one cared about our past, only who we were in that moment. At first, it felt freeing. We walked the markets hand in hand, no judging eyes, no whispers behind curtains, just the soft relief of being unseen. But every night, when the lanterns dimmed and silence filled the air, the ghosts returned. I would hear my father's voice disowning me. I would see my mother's tears and Noor's burning eyes. And I would ask myself, was love worth all that? Daniel tried to keep me grounded. We can start over. Aliyah, he would whisper, his hand brushing against my cheek. We can build something new. And sometimes, I believed him. We found work. We rented a small room. We filled it with laughter and small dreams. But deep down, there was always a crack, always a shadow that lingered behind his smile and my silence. One night, months after we left, Daniel caught me staring out the window. Thinking about them, he asked softly. I nodded. I keep hearing her voice. Noor's voice. I admitted. She said love built on ashes always burns, and I can't shake it. Daniel pulled me close. We'll prove her wrong, he whispered, but even his tone carried a hint of doubt. Because love alone doesn't silence the past. The past is louder than love sometimes. Years passed. We survived, we made a home, but scars don't fade just because time moves forward. Every milestone felt incomplete. When we celebrated our first anniversary, I wished my parents could see me in a white dress. When Daniel brought me flowers, I wondered if Noor still hated roses, or if she even remembered what they once meant. And when we spoke about children, I froze. Because how do you raise a child when your own family refuses to say your name? Daniel saw it all in my eyes, and one evening, as the sun dipped low, he whispered, Do you regret it?
Us.
The question cut through me. I shook my head quickly, tears pooling. No, never us, I whispered. But I regret the war we left behind, the blood that was spilled for us to stand here. He kissed my forehead. Then, let's make sure it wasn't for nothing. And we tried. We poured our love into every corner of our lives. But here is the truth I can no longer hide. Some nights, when the world was quiet, I still longed for home. I longed for Noor's forgiveness, for my father's pride, for my mother's embrace. And though revenge gave me Daniel, it left me with a hollow chest. Because revenge doesn't heal, it only replaces one wound with another. Now, as I tell this story years later, I understand something I didn't then. Love can survive religion, it can survive family, it can survive distance, but it cannot survive without forgiveness. And I never forgave Noor, nor did she forgive me. So our love, though strong, always carried the weight of ashes. Would I choose differently if I could go back? I don't know, because the heart doesn't listen to reason, it only listens to its hunger. But I do know this. Every choice leaves scars, and some scars never fade. If you've listened this far, remember my story not as a tale of victory, but as a warning. Revenge may give you what you crave, but it will take twice as much from you in return. And when the fire burns out, you are left in the smoke, coughing, searching, wishing you could breathe clean air again. This was my truth, my curse, my love, and my punishment. And now, it is yours too. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to reflect on what love truly means in your life. Every choice we make leaves a mark, and sometimes sharing those lessons helps someone else find strength. If you'd like to hear more stories like this, feel free to subscribe and stay connected. Your thoughts matter deeply, so share them in the comments. I'd love to know how you felt. Together, we can keep these stories alive, one voice at a time.